Well, it's been a while, but we finally get a good Nicolas Cage movie. Receiving a 5-minute standing ovation at Cannes Film Festival and also dividing audiences into either a love it or hate it camp, Mandy starring Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough and also directed by Panos Cosmatos, I think is probably one of the most interesting films to come out in 2018. I really came into this film not knowing too much about it. In fact, I hadn't seen any promotional material for this film, and that also includes the trailer. And I'm certainly glad that I didn't, because I think that really added to a positive experience of seeing this film. And so for that reason, I have to be really careful about, I think, what I talk about in this review. But also, too, I actually came out of this film in two minds about it, and I really couldn't decide whether I enjoyed the film or whether I didn't. And I've sat with this film for some time now, to really think about it so I can really articulate my thoughts on the film. There's things that I did enjoy in Mandy, and there's also things that I didn't enjoy in Mandy, which I'll get to in a little bit. So I'm ready to go. Mandy opens in 1983, where lumberjack Red Miller, played by Nicolas Cage, is living with his girlfriend in a secluded cabin in the woods. One day, Mandy is approached by a cult leader who conjures a group of motorcycle crazed demons to kidnap her, and Red stops at nothing to get the love of his life back. Now, on paper, that plot may sound a little bit silly, but in fact, Mandy takes itself very, very seriously, a very serious tone throughout most of this film. It's quite dark, it's quite brooding, and it actually really works to this film's favor. Mandy really oozes creativity in this film right from the opening. Cinematographer Benjamin Lobb's work here is quite remarkable, and he really draws us into this 1980s look by using mostly Panavision Primo anamorphic lenses. And what these do is they add a lot of warmth and texture to the imagery on screen. It's quite warm, coupled with a very, very minimalist approach to lighting. As well as that too, Cosmatos uses his trademark Panaflares approach here, and what he does is he actually uses small LED lights, and what he does is he shoots these lights down the barrel of the lenses to actually create more of a softer type of warm imagery on screen. So you've got some fantastic work going on here, and I gotta say, Mandy is absolutely a visual feast. It looks absolutely gorgeous. The cinematography just works fantastic here in really creating a nightmarish quality, which works so well for the horror element of Mandy. And there's also some fantastic blue and red lighting in this film as well, which also reflects the internal state of its characters and their motivations, depending upon what point of the film is actually being shown. But it's absolutely fantastic as well. And so Mandy has an incredible visual style, and it really draws you in. It does become obvious straight away that director Panos Cosmatos is drawing on inspiration from 1980s action revenge flicks like Cobra or Rambo Part 2. And for reference, his father George Cosmatos actually directed these pictures here. And it really works quite well, particularly in the first half. As well as that too, there's also a lot of homage to the grindhouse horror films from the 70s, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for example. And there's also real art house quality to a lot of the imagery as well, like I've already talked about in this review. And so you've really got these three elements coming into play in this film, and it's just a mix that really works quite well. The musician in me also enjoyed the soundtrack to this film, and this film actually opens with a guitar-heavy score that actually maintains right throughout this picture, and it's actually performed by King Crimson. So the guitarist in me certainly appreciated a lot of that. And it's actually coupled with fantastic sound design as well. So production-wise, Mandy really has all the bells and whistles. The performances in Mandy are mostly great here. I think Cage is probably the best he's been here since Joe, and we get a fantastic performance from Cage here that really allows his crazed energy that he's really well known for to really cut loose with this character Red. Now he gets a great sequence, and it's basically at the halfway point in this movie, and it's just him in a bathroom with a bottle of vodka, and the camera work is very minimalist in this particular sequence, and it just allows Cage to really let loose here. It's a really great performance, and as I said, I think it's probably his best performance since Joe. Riseborough actually gets a really good performance in here as well, and she perfectly complements his Cage's crazed energy. And she's very reserved in this film. You know, she's not really given much to do, but it is a note-perfect performance for this film and for what it's going for. Linus Roche takes the opportunity to really ham it up in this story as the film's antagonist Jeremiah, and while I understand what he was going for in this film, unfortunately for me it's just a little too over the top, and his line delivery, where he pauses and accents every single line. Well, it just becomes a little bit too grating after a while, guys. Now, about this screenplay. Here's where I had a few problems with this film. I was in the first hour really asking myself what this film is about and where it was going. And because I hadn't really checked out any of the promotional material for this film, you know, I was really unsure what this film was actually about. And it's not until the second half where Cage's character visits Bill Duke that this film really finally kicks into gear and we really start to know where this film is, you know, somewhat heading. Now, on one hand, the unconventional screenplay creates a lot of mystery and intrigue. On the other hand, Mandy's slow burn pace and its really patient editing at times can make it a little bit frustrating to try and endure, particularly in its first half. And look, I've got no problem with slow burners. I actually quite enjoy them from time to time, but I think in Cosmotos's case here, at times he can get caught up in his incredible visual style that he's going for in this film, rather than creating tight storytelling. If you can get through the first half of this film, the second half has a lot more energy and it's a lot more snappy, and we start to work out, yep, okay, this is what this film's about, this is where it's going. And from there on out, it's actually quite an enjoyable ride, and it does start to open up to a lot of the homage to the Grindhouse 70s films, and I mentioned before that it pays homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there's actually even a really, really cool sequence involving chainsaws, which I won't spoil, but it is a lot of fun to watch. Mandy has been dividing audiences, guys, into either that love it or hate it camp that I was talking about earlier in this review. And I guess for me, guys, I don't really fall into either of those categories. I don't love Mandy, but I do like it. And I guess I fall into more of that positive camp because there is a lot here to appreciate in this film. I'm actually looking forward to revisiting this film again in the future sometime and actually really getting more Easter eggs within this film, you know, subtle use of lighting effects, symbolism and cues and things like that. It's a visual feast, guys. There's really a lot to take in from its visual style, but it's an okay story, and I guess at the end of the day it's because of having a visual feast and an okay story that I had a good experience with this film, but not the outstanding experience that I was actually hoping for. If you consider yourself a true film lover, a true cinephile, then you should definitely check Mandy out. I highly recommend this film to those type of people. And I think to really appreciate the full visual style of this film, definitely go and check it out at your local cinema, if you can. Because I've got to say, in my city, here in Brisbane, Australia, there was only one cinema who was actually playing this film, and it was only one session time. And I really think that's unjust for a film like this. It deserves a better theatrical run. So go and see it if you can. If you dug this review, of course, don't forget to flick a like and subscribe. And remember, a weekend watching movies is a weekend well spent. Thanks for watching.